welcome to Brain Chat. I'm Dr. Mitzi Joy Williams, your board-certified neurologist and MS specialist, and my mission is to engage, educate, and empower those affected by MS to become an active part of their healthcare team. Here on Brain Chat, we'll be discussing all things MS, health and wellness, advocacy, and we'll even throw a little bit of music and music therapy in there as well. Thank you so much for joining us, and stay tuned for the next episode. Well, it is a marvelous Monday, my friends, and welcome to Brain Chat. I am the nerdy neurologist, and I am so excited to be here with you guys on this wonderful Monday to talk about MS for MS Awareness Month. So for those of you who have never been on Brain Chat, when we start the show, we always have everyone kind of do a roll call. Tell me where you are logging in from. I bid you greetings from the ATL in the dirty South. It was warm until I came home from Las Vegas last night, and now it's cold. So I bid you greetings from Atlanta, home of the frigid weather that is 60 one day and then 90 the next day. But I digress. So I'm very excited to talk about MS Awareness Month because, when I first started seeing people living with MS, we didn't have a lot of awareness about MS. And so now we're having more events, there are more activities where people are learning, and I get to connect with all of these amazing MS advocates and wonderful people who are just changing the space and really sharing their stories and walking in their truth. So I see a couple of people logging in from Indiana. I see someone's from Ottawa, Kansas. Okay, I see you. ATL. Hello, neighbor. Someone's logging in from the DMV, Hillsborough, North Carolina, Maryland. I see you. All right. So we got folks from all over, from the East Coast, the West Coast, all the coasts. All right. Very good. And we want to thank our sponsors, Janssen Pharmaceuticals, for their support for Brain Chat. All right. Oh, I got somebody from Canada. Okay. Pocono Mountains, Pennsylvania. I always wanted to go to the Poconos. Isn't there a song about the Poconos? All right, I always want to go to Poconos. All right, and then Virginia. Okay, so let's go. We have got some amazing guests tonight. I am so excited, you guys. And I know I say that every week, but really this week, I'm really excited. So we have Damian Washington, who is an amazing MS advocate. He's an actor. He does rapping. He does videos. He does speaking. He does all the things. So I'm so excited to have him on to share some of his experience. And then we have the amazing Azure Antoinette. She is a storyteller. She is an actress. She is a writer, a poet. She is a communicator. And I've been so blessed and honored to work with her on several projects and to work with Damian. So two of my favorite MS advocates in the house tonight. Let me bring them up to the stream. Welcome to Brain Chat.
Man, that intro had me going, Doc. Come on, man. I was out here like, say it. Let's go.
I do a little something here and there. I do a little something. But all kidding aside, thank you guys so much for spending your time with us on this Monday for this episode. And we are going to hop right into it. So first, let's talk a little bit about how you came into the MS space, obviously through a diagnosis. But we'll start with Azure. Tell us a little bit about your story about how you were diagnosed with MS.
First of all, thanks for having me, Damian. Good to see you. How I came into the MS space, yes, it was a diagnosis. I feel very prolonged and delayed, but I didn't know what was wrong. I was in my middle 20s, and I lost my ability to walk. And like just all of a sudden, I was walking to the bank on Hollywood and Vine. I lived in this terrible studio apartment with giant cockroaches that definitely should have been paying roommates wages. They were so large. This, of course, is well before I moved to Atlanta and realized that Atlanta is also Jumanji. And those roaches in Hollywood were Mentos.
Not Jumanji.
What I'm living with now. I don't want to talk about it. We don't have that. We can talk about it another time. And I'm walking to the bank. And I literally was walking to Chase and my legs just went out entirely. And a couple of weeks before that, and actually, I don't know how much time it was, I was spinning, like physically, violently ill just from looking left or right, head up or down. It came out of nowhere. And like I said, I was in my mid-20s, so I didn't understand what it could have been. It all sounded a little bit crazy. And as I'm continuing to kind of immerse myself in this journey now, I can still think back to how many years this started before that. I just didn't realize that it was MS that I was dealing with. I didn't have a diagnosis. So the main thing was my inability to walk, and then what they lovingly refer to as the MS hug, which
That does
which
not
I
feel like
don't
a hug.
know. Yeah, I don't know who named it and what kind of pre-trauma, but if someone is embracing you that way and calling it a hug, that feels semantically incorrect. Like, don't hug me, don't ever, So and clearly the person who named it has never had one of those. But the doctor was like, what does it feel like? I said, how kids have a onesie, like they get a onesie when they're little. It's like I'm wearing the one that I was born in. That one, that's what it feels like. And they were like, okay, all right, yeah, okay. So that was my entry. Yep.
Gotcha. Okay. The onesie that you were born in. Okay.
Yep.
I have never ever heard that. I will add that to my armamentarium of descriptions of
Please.
the MS hug, or the
Your
symptom
original
formerly
onesie.
known as banding. So banding, the
Yes.
symptom formerly known as banding, the
Oh.
MS hug. Very good. All right. Tell us a little bit, Damian, tell us about your journey.
Peace, y'all. Everyone watching, thank you, Dr. Williams. Thank you. It's really good to see you. You see this just joy running
Yes.
through.
Same.
I was a guy who was diagnosed about 7 years ago, and as you can see, I'm a high energy person, and I was doing normal high energy things. Like shooting videos and things. Like I've done about 34 commercials and voiceovers in the past 10 years. I've sold you products for years. I make my living blending in until one day I stand out. Essentially, I was doing a bunch of things like creating content, making video, and was just wiped. My energy was gone, and I'd be on my hands and knees, sucking wind, with doing things that I normally did. And I was like, am I dying? What is going on? My wife, who's been with me since we were freshmen in college, that's 20 years ago, she, as we're hanging out and, just living our life and, just being around each other, she's like, something's wrong with you, man. I don't know what it is, but you don't hold me the same way when you walk down the street. And that is all the precursor to going to 3 different doctors, not knowing what it is, and eventually getting to an ER tech. And that ER tech was like, I don't know what's wrong with you, get an MRI. And that MRI was like, oh, this guy, he's totally healthy. He totally has multiple sclerosis. He should get a neurologist and get that checked out. And I found a neurologist, and then I found a specialist. And like I say, I hit marks and say lines for a living. So eventually those 2 paths cross. And now I hit marks and say lines on behalf of MS.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
That's so funny that you said that too, Damian. Sorry to cut you off, Doc, but an ER doctor diagnosed me too after 4 county hospitals.
So yeah, I hear this theme of both of you talking about difficulty with diagnosis. So what was it? Was it that when you went, did you feel like people weren't taking your symptoms seriously, or they just literally had no clue, or kind of what was the experience there when you were going to these different doctors? Like what was happening?
Sure.
I'll jump in. It was. I think it's kind of a confluence of everything you just kind of mentioned. I don't think there was any knowledge. I'm trying to remember the year. I want to say it was maybe 2012 or 2011. So, when I think about it in context of where we were social media wise, WebMD was still pretty king, but still a mess. and then other than that, like social media spaces, there wasn't anything. So, like they were they were not able to listen to what I was saying, what was wrong, and not cut it off at like, oh, you're not having a stroke, you're not having a heart attack. We tested your blood and like there's a few things you could change, but that doesn't explain the dizziness. It doesn't explain the vomiting. It doesn't explain the falling. And then finally, my inability to control the bottom half of my body. So they
Mm.
were just like, yeah, you got to rest. And I had one doctor tell me that he had seen Blackberry thumb really take a dark turn. I had a Blackberry at the time. Things were really good with the BBM. I mean, I messaged. I
They
wasn't
thought it was your
messaging back.
BlackBerry.
I Everyone was just saying things in my direction, and
Mm.
my mom is a retired litigator. She just kept, saying in Jesus' name, and you need to get off your BlackBerry, and you should get some rest and have a ginger ale, which was not helpful for anyone. And so it was doctor after doctor. But my sister finally took me to my mom's house because I couldn't be by myself anymore. I'd fallen down like 3 or 4 flights of stairs, and then the dizziness was like really terrifying. So I sat on my sister's couch, literally in the corner for a couple of days, because she could prop me up literally at the angle where the arm and the couch meet. And then she drove me to my mom's, which was like an hour east, probably 2 hours in traffic. And we started going to all the hospitals, all the county hospitals. And they just kept saying like, you look fine, your tests are good, call us in a few weeks. Somebody gave me a horrific amount of antibiotics.
Mm.
That sent me
For
into
what?
like a full, I'm not sure. Oh, labyrinthitis. That's what it was. They said I had labyrinthitis, and inner ear infection was causing the spinning and the vomiting.
Hmm.
And the what was it? Is this azithromycin or something like that made me violently
Hmm.
ill, and so I had to go back to the ER for that. So it was a lot of disbelief, a lot of saying, "Well, we ran the test and you look fine," and everybody just sent me home. And so we did
Hmm.
that well over. It must have lasted almost 2 weeks, going back and forth, back and forth, back
Wow.
and forth, back and forth, and you start to just kind of feel like a psycho. So then I just was like, "Oh, okay, yeah, cool, cool, cool." So I don't. I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not sure how much the patient would feel like safe saying anything after that. You go to so many places repetitively, and then you still feel. I would wake up every day feeling even worse. And so
Wow.
that really broke my spirit. It broke my heart. I was really scared. And yeah, it was finally this one ER doctor. He walked in. He was like, "Sorry, I took some time on the 18th hour of my shift, but based off of the test and what I see, you have MS." And I just was like, "Right, okay, okay."
Right, right, right.
Woo.
So had experiences where you went, everybody was like, they don't know what's wrong. And then finally somebody, thank goodness, even though they were tired, that they took that
Yep.
time,
Yeah.
and the thing about it is that's what we're supposed to do as healthcare providers. Like that's our job, is
Right.
to try to figure out what's going on. And I always tell people stress is always what we call a diagnosis of exclusion, right? So we don't
Right.
automatically look at someone and say, this is stress. Certainly, stress can make many conditions worse. Stress can trigger some issues, but that's never or shouldn't be the first diagnosis, right? We should do our diligence and make sure that we're doing the appropriate tests. And then, if everything else,
Right.
doesn't pop up, then, kind of go from there. Tell us a little bit about your journey, Damian.
Oh, essentially, my gait was off, so I went to a podiatrist. I went. My vision was off, so the optometrist was like, "Well, your eyes are fine. Your feet are fine. I don't know why you're walking funny, but you're clearly walking funny." And
Mhm.
one day, my wife and I went to go on a walk, and progressively shorter walks because, like I say, I have less energy, and I could barely make it halfway down the block. And when we returned home, I went to take off my shoes, and I went to sit down and take off my shoes, and I fell. And so I'm looking at
Mhm.
the ceiling, and Angela's like, "Well, we're going to emergency care, and we're not leaving until we know what's wrong with you." So I'd already been through 3 different doctors who were like, "Mm." And because the man couldn't sit down and take off his shoe, the lady was like, nah. And sitting in front of that doctor was like, I don't, you're clearly healthy, but you're clearly fine, but you're clearly not fine. Get an MRI.
Right.
And
Right.
the
Right.
MRI is the thing that confirmed it. So
Right,
yeah.
right. And so, that's why I think MS awareness is so important, because unfortunately, there are still people who it's taking a while to get diagnosed. One of the difficulties with MS is that the symptoms are very similar to other conditions, right? So if somebody's arm is numb, that can happen from a pinched nerve. If somebody's vision is a little off, that can happen from other things. And so someone has to have that suspicion to go looking for it for you to get diagnosed. And so one of the reasons that, like I said, MS Awareness Month and MS Awareness Week is important is because we need to educate the community, not just the medical community, because I think that neurologists are overall becoming more aware of MS. I think one of the next things that needs to be done is to make sure that we're aware of who gets MS, because many of us have been given kind of a picture of who gets MS when we were in training, and it is not people that look like you, although many people that look like you do have MS. And so the next step is kind of raising awareness that people from all different backgrounds get MS. But even with that, I think it's also important to educate the community. I think one of the things that was really that really stands out to me about both of you is that you were advocating for yourselves. And Damian, you had your wife, but you guys were like, okay, something is wrong. We're not just going to be like,
Yeah.
nothing's going on here. And so,
Right.
we need to make people in the community aware that if your leg goes numb or your arm goes numb, that is not normal. Don't just sit at home and wait till it goes away and not get it checked out. These are symptoms that could be a warning that at least need to be investigated. What do you guys, or what has your experience been talking with your peers and other people that who've been diagnosed in the MS community?
I'm gonna just jump on you here. Hold on. If
Go ahead.
you have it,
Do it.
then it go away, and then you have it again, get thee
Right.
to a neurologist.
Get thee.
Right.
Get
Get thee
thee.
Right.
to a neurologist. It's one of
Right.
these things where you've been in your body your whole life. You know what your body does. If your body doesn't do what it always does, perhaps there's a reason for that. Get that checked out. That's it.
Yep.
Right,
Yep.
absolutely. Because I get
Yeah.
young people like in their 20s talking about, oh, my memory's kind of bad. I thought I was getting old. I'm like, you're 20. Like,
Girl.
no, this
Yeah.
is not
Right
normal.
now.
This is not normal.
Yeah.
Let's not blow this off, okay?
Right.
Let's
Right.
take a little closer look,
Yeah.
and so one of the things is that we tend to say this is stress and just blow everything off, but it's
Yeah.
important, as you said, Damian, to listen to your body. And if it's not doing what it's supposed to do, at least go get it checked out. What do you have to
Right.
say or add to that as well?
I think the same, because the physician, that ER physician said that, and I think I've mentioned this to you before, Doc. He said that they call MS, when he was in school, the great masquerader, because it looks and presents like so many different things. I can't tell you how many times I got tested for HIV. They would get through a whole gamut, and then they were like, so HIV, and I'm like, I don't have it, so but I didn't hear where the onesie and the, all right, well, sure, yeah, I can take another test. Like, it was so dismissive and
Right.
hellacious. And on top of that, you physically, exactly like Damian said, he was like, I went to take off my shoe and then I just fell out. MS is that thing that I often describe as like, oh, I was walking and then I wasn't. Like, that's it. There's no music, there's nothing cool, like something awesome doesn't happen, like you're okay, and then you're instantly not all right. So,
Right.
and then somebody sees you the next day and they're like, well, yeah, I mean, that's good. You look pretty good. So you drank the smoothie, and I'm like, I can't talk to you anymore, because most of me wants to sock you in the throat, which I don't even think I can physically do, because I
Sock you.
can't seem to control my hands. So like it was just, it's everything you said, that the people that have it don't look anything like us. And the only thing that I know for certain is that what made it more scary to have the diagnosis was, well, it's two parts. I was ecstatic that I finally had a name for it. That made me feel like, thank God. And then, as you do, as any person does, you leave whatever and you get on your phone or you get to the computer and you're like, okay, well, let me see what this thing is. And when you go to Google it, I'm just like, okay. And so then it felt like another, for me, it felt like another smack or slap in the face to then have one more thing that I couldn't quite explain to the general public. It is hard enough to be a minority in this country. To then get the disease that we're also not represented in was infuriating and still
Yeah.
is. But I know today, that we have come so far because of you, because of Damian, and people like myself. We're just candidly putting it out there to say,
Yeah.
hey, it's all like, we're here. It's fine. Like, yes, it's awful and it's terrible, but there are people that look just like you that have this too. So
Right.
that has been my ultimate, like, my ultimate trade-off for having the disease in the first place. But the fact that people like Damian and myself are shouldering it and handling this and talking about it, then make sure that people that look like us 10 years back don't have to do all the Houdini bullshit. Sorry,
Yeah.
nonsense. Sorry about that. My bad if they're kids.
Come on now, hot mic.
Sorry about it. So, like, I just think like that's really important. If we can't do anything about where we are, other than continue to advocate for ourselves, but we can help. We can help the diagnosis. We can help point out some of the basics that both of you have already mentioned, to just say that's abnormal. Like, it is.
Yeah, absolutely. And so many nuggets in what both of you said. Just looking at some of the comments that some of our viewers are putting in the chat, and someone said they're in Japan. So I don't know if I've ever had anybody from Japan, but someone from Japan said that the doctors don't know that much about MS. Someone else said that they were diagnosed with migraines, but they never had a headache. Someone else, said that they had other symptoms and were diagnosed with a different autoimmune disease. So again, it can very commonly present meaning the symptoms can start looking like other conditions. But I love the part that you said, Azor, about making things better for the people that follow behind, right? Whether it is the patient community. For me, it's the neurology community, for my peers, making sure that people that are now coming out of training don't have those same misconceptions that I had, when I first came out of training. And so when you were diagnosed, or when you guys were diagnosed, had you ever heard of MS? Did you know anybody with MS? Like, what did you think? Were you like, what is that? Like, I mean, what were your first thoughts? Like, did you know anything about the condition, or had you ever heard of it?
Go ahead, Damian. Go ahead.
Look, I feel the space, okay? But I will always delegate to other people in the space. Essentially, when I understood that this is the thing that I was facing, I was like, ugh, I don't want to do that. I really don't want to deal with that. Like, don't Montel Williams got that? Well, and like Richard Pryor. Those are like the only two people who came to mind. I was like, well, it didn't end well for Richard. And Montel, he's all right. So I'll be all right. But yeah, no, I did not. You don't, like you say, our population and this condition don't necessarily go together top of mind. And that can sort of even keep you from understanding and finding out and doing some more digging on what you can do to improve your wellness. Because no matter what your condition is, the power is in your hands. Because this condition in you.
Yeah.
So having that, I didn't really have more people to see it, but once I knew it was mine, let's go.
And what about you, Azor?
The similar. I was like, well, Montel has a talk show. That's good. And then I was like, maybe I'll just watch his show. Because again, to date, to give you a reference, there was no content. Then I found out Ozzy Osbourne's son, Jack Osbourne, also got diagnosed. And I was like, he's very rich and British. And so when I was sitting literally at my mom's house, we had maybe gotten to one doctor and 2 county hospitals. And I was so discouraged, like going home every time because nothing was working. Literally, I think somebody gave me like a high dose of ibuprofen. I got talked to about like what I should stop eating. I'm like, this is not that. So I'm scouring Internet Explorer, Netscape Navigator, anything that I can find. Google Chrome was in someone's preschool mind. Like that
Yeah,
wasn't a thing.
it was not
Instagram
a
had
thing.
not yet gone to the garage. Gmail had just started inviting people to do a Gmail trial. So there was zero information, but the information I found was like either you're going to be fine or all the death is coming because people with MS commit suicide. And I was like, excellent. This is fantastic. So I was, and then I read a medical journal, which I cannot find. I do not know where it was. I've thought about it a little bit, but I also know better than to set myself up for failure. And it was one doctor overseas that was talking about the MS hug being the one thing that wasn't like all the others, wasn't Lyme disease, wasn't Epstein-Barr. And I was like, okay. So then I start reading about the MS hug and I kept reading and he starts talking about proximal vertigo. And
Hmm.
then I'm reading about that and I'm like, oh yeah, the sensation, that's the thing. And he was talking about a holistic balance between managing the water crystals in your ear. And that helps stop, like when you can get these levels. It was a whole diagram. You would have loved it, Doc, with all the drawings. And he was talking about getting your water level. You have to drink 60 to 70% of your 60 to 70% of your body weight in ounces a day in water to make sure that your body is always operating at the top hydration, which then could subdue all of the proximal vertigo issues. And more than the walking, the ability to not be able to turn right or left, up or down was destroying me. Like I could
Hmm.
not, I could only look straight ahead or close my eyes. Like that was it. And I was like, oh well, this isn't going to work out. I am not feeble. And this is terrible. So I mean,
Hmm.
like it was that, there was that. And I met one person, this guy I used to coach poetry with. I didn't coach with him on the same team. I coached a slam team out of LA for that show Brave New Voices on HBO. And he
Hmm.
was the coach of the other team, and his wife had MS. And God bless them both. He was like, come to lunch with us. And his wife was in a full, massive wheelchair where it had all the mobility. And I was like,
Bruh.
okay, okay,
Right, right.
and I was like, oh, this is not, because I wasn't even 26 or something. I was like, are you serious? Like, I was like, so
Hmm.
this, and then exactly what Damian said, you were like, Montel Williams and Richard Pryor, and I was like, well, he's not with us,
Right,
so this isn't
right,
good.
right.
Yeah,
So it's
that was
important
my
to
whole
have.
experience.
Yeah, so again, it's important to have, you have these visuals in your mind, right? And we often liken that to what our potential outcomes may be. So the more limited those visions or examples we have, the more limited we think our potential outcomes can be. And so the truth of the matter is some people do wind up in wheelchairs from MS, but usually not the majority, right? So the if you think about the statistics, roughly about 25% of people at some point at the end of their MS, when they have severe MS, may need to be, in a wheelchair, but that leaves a vast majority of folks who are not. Now, some of them
Mm-hmm,
may need some assistance to walk, but everyone is not in a wheelchair. And so it's very important when people first get diagnosed to have access to good information.
yes.
I tell people all the time, listen, don't go Google an exhaustive list of symptoms of MS because it'll scare you to death, right? So let's take a step back. I've never had anybody with every single symptom on the list,
Mm-hmm,
but it's
mm-hmm,
important to have access to good information and to have access to a solid healthcare team to really help you navigate that process, which is very, very scary when you first get
mm-hmm,
diagnosed. So let's
mm-hmm,
talk about kind of finding your tribe within the MS community. So one of the things that I, really admire about both of you guys is that you're very open about sharing your experience with MS. I still have many patients who are very frightened to tell people. There's a lot of stigma. They don't want to share. And of course, it is everyone's right to not want to share their personal business. So I am not an advocate that everybody has to go around and put a sign on their head that says I have MS. But for those who do want to share, but maybe don't know how, or a little bit apprehensive about what others will think. What spurred both of you to begin to share your story with other people? Because you both have been really inspiring to many people in the MS community. And to me, you both inspire me
Well,
as
you in
well.
the MS community too. Come on now. Thank you.
Now. Damian, you go ahead. It's you. You have it.
Man, I done forgot the question already. See, I have MS. Hey.
That's
See?
okay. You had an MS
I'm out.
moment.
I'm
That is
dead.
okay.
I've
That's
passed
what we
away.
call it.
I
You
can't.
had a
I'm not
moment.
gonna.
You
I'm
had a
not doing
moment.
it.
Yeah.
Damian
So the
wants to start.
question is, what spurred you to start sharing your story, to inspire other people?
That's the thing. I booked my first commercial when I was 15. Okay, I'm 40. I've done 37 commercials and voiceovers in the past 8 years. Okay, I hit marks and say lines for a living, and as I'm just trying to find my way up. Another part of me is I'm also a gigantic nerd. I built my first computer at 15. Like 15 was a big year
Same.
for me.
I was
I
doing
know,
the
You know what I'm
man.
saying?
I
So
mean,
like, well, I
listen,
don't know what it is,
Yeah.
but
that's the landmark. 15.
that's
Okay,
what
so
it
I know
is.
for my kids, if
Boy,
they
you
do
a
nothing big
man
by
today.
15, we're gonna be in trouble.
It's true. So the vast digital knowledge that resides in here, plus I wouldn't call it vast, but it's pretty big. It's large. Performing, conveying emotion, frankly, being myself in the author's given circumstances. It's what I do. So those two things were coming together because I'm also sort of incredibly disciplined. That's what goes along with the performing. And I had gotten in my head that I'm going to make 100 videos and put them on YouTube because that will help my career. And of course, nobody watched, and not even 100 videos, 100 videos, one video every week. And up until like video 30 some odd thing, nobody watched. Of course, nobody watched because that's how it goes. But that's like almost half a year of putting videos into the ether. But the result was not something that the performer is concerned with. They're concerned with the work. Anyway, as I'm doing the work, the only videos that people watched were the ones where I was talking about MS. So I was like, well, I got to give the people what they want, and started exclusively making videos about MS. And apparently my voice speaking about these matters and my perspective and my nerd eye is useful and helpful, and helps people understand what's happening within themselves.
I love it. I love it. What about you, Azur?
I mean, I've said this to you before too, Doc. I'm very new to representing and being very open in public about having MS. And that has taken me a very, very long time to get here for a host of different reasons. But one of the things that felt like it throttled me after my actual diagnosis was how expensive it was going to be to live a life with this thing. And I was already in the space where I had to mortgage whether or not I was going to pay rent or get new headshots, whether or not I was going to get a Z card or pay my phone bill. So then when they're like, oh, go get an MRI, even whether it was 2012 or 2011, it was still hundreds of dollars. And I thought to myself, like, well, this is actually not something I can afford to even remotely do. So I'm just going to act like it's not happening. And I did that for a really long time. And there was the shame of that and the frustration of it. And then having what I literally like to call very candidly, not one of the cool kids diseases. Like people didn't even know what you were saying. Like half the time people thought if I wrote down MS, I was saying I was single. Like that is the level of like atrocity around the lack of agency for it. And I think that when you inherit, when you are given, handed, branded, whatever it is, it's hard enough to get people past their own bias around what a disability is. And then when they, someone of incredible A+ star power comes down with it, then whenever you hear people talking about it, it's all very sullen and it's very heavy. Damian was one of the first videos I had found online watching someone talk about the disease, and they weren't like crying and falling out. And not only that, what I enjoyed about it was that he looked solid. And so while MS is not considered a full invisible disability, there are so many moments of the disease that you can't see. And it is
Right.
up to you, the person housing this monster, to figure out how you're going to vacillate in the world. And
Mm.
being a minority, being a woman in business, being a woman in the entertainment industry, I'm already walking in the door with all of the things that they think I cannot do. So the last thing I'm going to do in my mind was put on a label that, like, yeah, I have this thing that a lot of people don't really even know about. And sometimes I stutter, and sometimes I throw things across the room, and sometimes I can't walk, and sometimes I can't talk. And, but we'll talk about it later. There was no affinity month. There was no ice bucket challenge. There was no Susan G. Komen. There was nothing. And
Right.
the agency around being, whether it's an advocate for yourself or being a healthcare partner, we are all broken apart. Nothing is congealing and connecting us all together. So you've been here this whole time. Damian's been here this whole time. And it's taken me too long to find the community. And so
Mm.
one thing I know is that finally becoming a patient leader and a thought advocate around advocating for yourself, living well with MS, being in front of it, saying, this is me, this is MS, this may look entirely different tomorrow, is I've been so inspired to see just how long people like Damian, people like yourself have been championing and fighting for this thing, because up until almost a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago at the longest, I was like, oh, I have zero desire to discuss the thing that I can't control.
Mm.
So what I'm going to do is just be over here and try to figure it out with some Dr. Quinn medicine woman stuff that I know isn't going to work, or I'll have some more turmeric, because people love to recommend that. They also love to recommend water. And then people like to ask me if I've taken a nap. And I have had the water, I have had the turmeric, and I have also gone to sleep. And what I would like to tell the masses is that I still have it.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm
Yeah,
at.
I mean, so much in what both of you said, and I think that exactly what you said about having difficulty finding the community, and not knowing where to go for information, and not understanding, at least early on, are all of the reasons why I have become so outspoken about educating people about MS. I think that it's very important. It is not as common as breast cancer, but it's not any less important than other
Yes.
conditions. And I think one of the things that I saw in my practice, and I've been practicing for about 15 years now, is that people would come in, and my first question to anyone that I meet, brand new as a patient, is, tell me what MS is, whether they've been diagnosed for a year or whether they've been diagnosed for 20 years. And what I found was that a lot of people couldn't tell me. People had had
Mm-hmm.
it for years, and I'm not expecting anybody to like break down, the myelin and tell me about Schwann cells and all that kind of stuff. Just like just simple, what does it mean?
Mm-hmm.
What does it mean to have this condition? What do you understand about it? And so many people, unfortunately, didn't really understand. And so I really saw this need to educate so that people would be empowered, because you can't advocate for yourself if you don't understand what
Yeah.
you're dealing with, and you don't understand why we're doing what we're doing. You don't know the questions to ask if you don't really get that to the best of your ability. And so that was one of the reasons why I really began to champion education and kind of going out there and, speaking everywhere people ask me to speak, and support groups and all this other stuff, so that people could really understand. And I think one of the highlights of my career is when I see someone's eyes light up, like that light bulb goes off, and they're like,
Mm-hmm.
oh my God, I've been coming to these
Yeah.
lectures for 10 years. This is the first time I
Yeah.
really understood
Mm-hmm.
what someone was saying to me. And
Yeah.
so for me,
Yeah.
that's key, right? You've got to get
Mm-hmm.
it. And so
Mm-hmm.
that is one of the things that brings me joy, is when I see that light bulb go off and they're like, oh my God, I got it,
Yeah.
so that you can begin to advocate for yourself. So when we think about, kind of the community, when we think about, kind of sharing your story, Damian, you shared kind of what that light bulb was for you. It became more of a, well, this is what people are interested in. This is something that I'm dealing with. Why not bring my two loves, my two big things going on in my life together? And create that content. But for Azure, what was that thing that flipped the switch, right? So a couple of years ago, what flipped the switch to make you say, okay, now I'm going to talk about it?
I did. So COVID had just rocked up. COVID had just started to really hang out in the States, and everyone was buying the pasta and the toilet paper and for
All the
droves.
toilet
And I
paper
was like,
and the paper
wow,
towels.
I don't know what happened in American culture that they said that this is a respiratory disorder, and America was like, I better get all of the toilet paper. But like,
Damn.
again, it's another time. I just was kept trying to work out like, what did they say that then was like, honey, get the rigatoni, I'll get the brawny. It's fine. Like I don't know what we did, but so lives had just started to really, everybody is quarantined and they're sheltering in place, right? And I was doing a writing workshop for this author named Jen Pasteloff. She wrote a bestseller called On Being Human. And so my event was, I think, a couple weeks out, but she was hosting a series of events where she was inviting people to come and write and be in community and together and all of that. So I decided to jump on one evening, and I wrote an open letter during the prompt that I think it was Liz Gilbert gave. And I wrote an open letter to my MS. And I don't remember if I read it then, but I recorded it and put it on my Instagram. And I'm not a big, like, Damian, you too. Y'all be in there just doing stuff and adding things and stuff's flying in and out of the screen. Like I have to go to bed. Like I can't get involved. But I recorded this poem and I posted it, and I had this neck thing that just started popping up and my speech started getting caught, which really pissed me off because I'm a public speaker for a living. And I just thought, this MS thing, like, we're going to have a talk. Like, this is not a good look. And so I have never gone on stage when that's happening because I don't ever want people to see that. And I just, again, I don't want to be put in a space where then they think they have to make concessions. But I recorded the poem and my tremors were horrific that day. So the poem went to, like, I don't know, 20,000 responses or whatever it was. People were coming out all over the place. And Janssen, one of their executives reached out to me and was like, hey, we want to talk to you about this. And I just was like, whoa, like, what how so? Like, what do you mean? Like free baby lotion for a bit? Because, yeah, that'd be cool. But they were like, we want to talk to you about being a spokesperson. And I had to really sit back with it because I thought to myself, Azure, for all of the other causes and things that you represent, you get so passionate about education and girls being educated, and you're so passionate about young people being empowered to tell their stories and people being empowered to tell their stories. Like, what is it about this that causes you so much shame? Like, why not get in front of it? And I said yes, begrudgingly, and they told me about you, and it was that. They were like, she studies this specifically. And I was like, who does? What? Who is it? What are you saying? So then I went back to the Google. I didn't find Montel, found you after way too many searches. But I was like, what it did, the validation of hearing that not only was this disease being looked at in your field, in the industry, not only were people here ready to get behind it, I thought to myself, what a serendipitous thing to occur that for someone that myself, that's a thought leader on diversity, equity, and inclusion, I've been partnered up with the doctor who said, not only do you have the disease, but it affects Black people differently than it affects everyone else. Because I thought to myself, well, I've seen plenty of Caucasian women with it. I have seen plenty of people I have heard from other races. And like, how come their bodies aren't trying to literally take them out, like during the course? Like, what is that? And the validation of that, the validation of understanding that it furthermore wasn't just in my mind, that it was the manifestation of something that disproportionately affects us, really fueled me to not only get myself behind the understanding that it was time to get back into Western medical care, but that I have to help eradicate the possibility that some other young Black woman that is at, her space and her height of creativity doesn't then just have to throw that whole part of her life away because she gets a diagnosis with no information and no agency. And it was then, that was it. I was terrified. I still am really scared about it all the time, but it's a beautiful thing to be able to sit and speak with both of you, feel completely seen, whether I say it or don't say it, be able to listen and ingest that information for myself, and just know that no matter what, Azure, at the end of the day, there's a whole host of people that are purposed to care and know about you so that you can purpose to care and know about someone else.
Whew.
Yeah,
we need to pass the offering basket. My gosh.
That's what
you
you
preached
do.
The whole sermon.
That's how she keeps the lights
Man, how amazing is that? And I was very fortunate to have a mentor that looked like me, that got me into the MS space, So I think, at the end of the day, everyone can make an influence in their circle. You know what I mean? Whatever that is, there are people that need to hear what you have to say, that need to hear about your experience, whether it's good or bad, to know that, that a diagnosis is not the end of their life. For many people, it's the beginning of something new.
Right.
It's the beginning of, new talents. Maybe you didn't know that you had, or new talents that you've used because maybe some other ones, ain't working like they used to, or a combination of different talents. For me, I was never really a big public speaker. I always tell people, I started my, presentation to the audience as a singer. And so when everyone asks me how I can be so engaging as a public speaker, it's because I used to be a worship leader at church, and church folks are really hard. They're a tough crowd. They're a really tough crowd, and I remember the first time when I first started singing and going out in front of people, sometimes my leg would be shaking so bad I would almost fall down. Sometimes
you were just trying to be like us, huh?
Listen, the leg
MS.
was shaking.
Yeah.
The leg was shaking. I remember the first time I led worship at church, I sang to the wall. I mean, I didn't even look at the people. I just walked to one wall and I turned around, walked to the other wall, but all of that, prepared me to do the things that I do and to hopefully have some type of positive impact on people, but you just never know. I would have never thought that doing those things would be preparing me for something like this, to be sitting here speaking with you all, giving you, time to share your story so that others can be inspired like I've been inspired. So it all works together. Sometimes we don't know how it's going to work together, but it all kind of works together in the end. So last thing before we get ready to close out, I want you to give one piece of advice to someone who's newly diagnosed about how to find their sense of community. Like, how do you connect? So I want each of you to give us one piece of advice, or you can give 1.5, maybe 2, but not 5.
Sure.
1.5, maybe 2, not 5. Damian, not 5. Okay. That was a lot of instructions. I'll go first. As someone who is been carrying MS with her for some time now, I'm very, very new to this space, and there are moments where it feels like I've been newly diagnosed. My advice to you is to really monitor and curate the space that you keep, whether that is in person or online. But we have to be prejudicial about the amount of stuff that we are consuming. That is in full health. That is with no disability. But this disability, this one specifically, it feeds and grows and gains fervor off of our stress, our feeling of despair, our discouragement. It builds momentum. So you will have days that will be fantastic, and you will have days that will feel less than passable. On those days, be kind to yourself. Surround yourself with people who want to listen to what you have to say and don't want to dismiss a disease that they don't understand. You are well within your own mind. You are here. And the one thing that lifted me up today, for anybody that's watching now or will watch later, it was so encouraging to hear a fellow advocate and a fellow patient say, he still memorizes lines. It's one thing that has crippled me in my career, is being able to get off book before I go on stage. And I psych myself out with my own cognition. So knowing that there is somebody else, we're the same age, and like he's doing it, that lifts me up too. So we got to find spaces that cheerlead us on. So you get people that make you feel better. And if they don't make you feel better, get new people, period.
I love it. I love it. Damian.
It's your energy. Protect it, respect it. Give it to things that make you feel better, and give it to things that are positive and that are uplifting. So, yeah, you can do Dr. Google and fall down that wormhole, but that doesn't feel good. And are you really getting all the information that you think you're supposed to be getting, or you're supposed to be getting? Let that alone. Do something else with your energy and figure out your condition. Swallow it in another way. I always say the cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek. And when I was on bed rest from the spinal tap that did not heal, to confirm my diagnosis, I was, like I say, I've been on a gajillion, not a gajillion, but a lot of productions. Yeah. And I was terrified to just pick up the phone and talk to the phone. And because the only thing I could do for 12 to 14 days was pee or sleep or be in the most horrific pain that I had ever experienced in my entire life, I was like, well, I'm not always going to be in this bed. What have I been avoiding so much? So, when I get out of this bed, I'm going to do that. So that is the thing of make the video. Oh, you got to get the right camera. Oh, there's so many excuses that you make for yourself to prevent you from doing something that you should do. And I've made a life out of running chest first into things that I am afraid to do, and have no problem when I fail. I'm only good because I have failed tens of hundreds of thousands of times before. I am here right now.
Same here. Man, such inspiring words. And tell the people where to find you.
YouTube.com/NoStressMS.
Oh my God, I love it. I'm so stressed about MS.
No stress.
I love it. It's like when people are like, no worries. I'm like, I have at least 17 right at this moment. But yeah.
I got 99.
Okay, that's good.
I got
all
99.
Right, that's beautiful. Oh yeah, definitely. You can find me on Instagram, hello_Azure Antoinette. But if you type in Azure, I'll come up. And I run a storytelling. I have a storytelling platform, and I'm all over the place. So just come hang out wherever. I don't know. Go. It's fine. Yeah. I'll be there. If you're looking, I'll probably pop up there.
Awesome sauce. Well, I don't think we have time for questions, but we've had some amazing folks commenting in the chat. Someone said that, thank you so much for this. I'm in tears. I needed to hear this. Someone else, said they were watching from New York, and someone else said they talk to their body and their MS and give it a pep talk all the time. We want to thank our sponsors, Janssen, and please subscribe to the podcast. It's on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, all the places where podcasts are found. You can subscribe to Brain Chat with the Nerdy Neurologist. So thank you to our amazing guests for this wonderful conversation. Thank you all so much for your time. You really have been a blessing and an inspiration to me, and I know so many people who will be able to hear your words and watch this live and listen to this podcast. So good night, everyone. See you in 2 weeks.
Y'all.
Same bat time, same bat channel. All right. We'll see
Bye,
you.
y'all.
We'll see you later.
Be good,
Bye,
be
guys.
good, be good.
Thank you,